everyone, and welcome back to my channel for another video. So today I am doing a quote-unquote draw my life video, where I'm just gonna go through kind of a brief life story basically. I remember watching a lot of these back in 2016, and I really enjoyed them, so I wanted to do one today. I do just want to quickly give it the disclaimer that I am ill, so I might have to kind of take breaks. Yeah, now I'll just get into the video. So here's my Draw My Life. So I was born on February 12th of 2000 to a mom and a dad. I had no siblings at the time, and they named me Shelby. At the time of my birth, I had one cousin who I was close with, who was my mom's brother, and his wife. They had a son, and we're going to call him C. I'm not going to be calling anybody by their names except for my brother, just because I don't have permission exactly from anybody to give out their names, so I'm just going to keep them to myself. At the time of my birth, my aunt didn't know it yet, but she was in fact pregnant with another cousin for me to grow up with. 2.5 years later, my little brother, my only sibling, was born in 2002, and there's this really funny picture of us as a family with me, my mom, and my brand new baby brother, and I was just so thrilled. I'm saying that with sarcasm. I was so excited, of course. But I had this big red sucker and a baby doll, and I was just towing those around. That made the four of us, the four cousins. We have C, S, myself, K, and A. So those are A or Austin, of course. So that's the four of us. When I was really young and growing up, I did 4-H and Girl Scouts, and I just overall spent a lot of time outdoors. I live out in the country in a really small town, so I spent a lot of time enjoying the outdoors. I played in the creek a lot. There's a creek behind my house, and I spent so much time there as a kid. I loved animals, I loved playing dolls, and I really wanted to be a vet when I was older. I don't have that wish anymore, but it was a dream. I feel like it's a very typical dream of a child as well. As for sports, I did gymnastics, and I took swimming lessons at my YMCA. As for animals, I was a big animal lover. I had so many animals. I had a Bichon named Eli, but he ran away when I was really young, so I don't remember him too much. I had bunnies at one point. I had chickens. The chickens were very mean. I had a frog who once escaped his aquarium in the middle of the night and came into my bedroom. It was quite the event. I had a hamster who swiftly died under mysterious circumstances. It was tragic. At one point, I had over 13 cats at the same time, because my cat would have kittens all the time, and it was crazy. And of course, I had dogs, who have always been my favorite pet. My first friends were my neighbors. I lived in a neighborhood that was mostly filled with older people, so typically a lot of my neighbors are grandparents, not parents. There's only me and one other family that are parent age at the time. So so we have D and J, and they were always living in the house across the street from me. They had also lived in the same house their whole life, as did I. Then we had A, or Austin, my brother. He is obviously a very good friend of mine. We spent a ton of time together. And then we had M, K, and C, who grew up living with their parents, but for a short time, for a couple of summers, they were living in their grandparents' house. So we spent a ton of time with them. Some fun memories of Jay were when we were younger, my brother and I would kick a soccer ball across the street and he would kick it back and stuff because our parents wouldn't let us walk across the street by ourselves. I have a funny story of M. We were carrying our cats across the creek because I don't know why. There was a bridge right there. We could have walked across the bridge, but we didn't. And we ended up slipping and falling, and the cats went flying because they were like, we are not falling in the water. My brother Austin was really close friends with Kay, and they once peed in my plastic playhouse that I had in the backyard, and so I never used it again. I went to a very, very, very small school, and by small school, I mean really small because my graduating class had only about 60 students in it, so very, very small. I spent my elementary years playing in the snow, making snowmen. I played softball, soccer, and basketball, and I didn't like any of those sports, but I tried them all out. My favorite thing to do was actually read books. I loved reading so much. It was my favorite thing, and that carried on with me even to today. I was very religious at the time. I would say I'm still religious, but not in the same sense. I am not associated with the church anymore, even though I am still religious. And I was and still am very shy, and I don't really, it makes me very nervous to talk to people, so that's something that has not changed. And I met my future high school besties, M, K, S, S, and A, and we were friends in elementary school, but we kind of fell out. Not really fell out, we never had a fight or anything, but we just sort of drifted apart over time, and but we would come back together eventually, so you'll see that. In 2006, we got Buddy, who was my my childhood dog, who I think of as my childhood dog anyway. Buddy, or Babadoo. So the picture on the right shows just him, and the picture on the left shows all three of my dogs together. Buddy is in the middle of that picture. So in 4th grade, I joined the swim team. I believe it was 4th grade anyway, and I was encouraged to join by J and D's mom, so my neighbor. She was having Jay join the team, so she offered to have me go to, and I went, and I didn't like it at first, but I ended up staying for 9 years. So I ended up realizing that I really liked being on the team, and it was really fun for me, and I felt like I could be myself on my swim team. And eventually A and D also joined, so my brother Austin and Jay's brother D joined the team, and we had Coach Jay, who is a really important, second mom to me. On to middle school. Middle school was not a fun time for me, as I think it wasn't a fun time for most people. I just wanted to fit in really badly, and I was super self-conscious, and I just, didn't really like myself that much, and I hope that, I don't know, I feel like I've changed a lot since middle school, of course. I wore cowboy boots to school every day, and which it kind of made sense because I went to a very small school and we were kind of out in the country, so I guess it made sense, but it still was weird looking back. My middle school was in the high school building. There was only elementary and high school buildings. There's only 2 buildings there, and I remember it being very daunting, thinking, oh my god, the seniors are going to be there, and we had lockers of our own for the first time, and it was just really exciting at the time. This was also when I joined choir, and I didn't really want to at the time, but I'm so glad that I did. Subjects in school were English and history, and I hated math with a passion, and I still do. It's not that I can't do well at math. It's more just that it takes a lot more energy and work for me to do well in a math class. I was friends with this girl called A, and I thought about telling this story, but I think I'm going to refrain from telling it because I don't think it's my story to tell. But basically, my friend that I was friends with at the time, she had to leave. And so that was when I began to sit with my elementary besties again. And I grew a lot more comfortable with them. And it was a lot better of a friendship for me. We also gained one more friend who I'm going to call R. And she was new to our school. And we had her sit with us as well. So at the time, our school was merging with another school because of some big school debts, and I don't know what it was exactly. I don't have time to explain it all, but we merged with another school basically. In this time that we got my 2 dogs who I have now, we have Milo, who I got in 2013. He's in the picture furthest to the left. And in the picture furthest to the right, you can see a picture of Champ as a puppy. And in the middle, there's 2 pictures of them recently together. And they're just so fun. They have the best personalities. And we got Milo after begging for a puppy for so many years. And my mom finally gave in. And then 2 years later, we got Champ after we made a bet about gas prices with our dad. My freshman year was when I got The Sims 4, and I got The Sims 4 for my birthday. It was my 15th birthday, and I already loved video games. I mostly played with my neighbor boy Jay, and we would play Minecraft and Nazi zombies mostly, but The Sims 4 was the first ever independent game. Prior to that, I had been mostly somebody who would play games in a social setting, which I was not often a part of. My junior year was a really, really bad year for me, honestly. I had many deaths occur in my personal life. First was the death of a church crew member, which I don't want to tell too much about because, again, it's not my story. And then a few months later, on a random Thursday in September, my brother and I had just gotten home from school when we got a call from my mom that my great aunt and my great uncle were going to pick my brother and I up from our house and take us to the hospital. We had found out that my cousin C was in the hospital and he had been in an accident. He had been the 3rd generation in a line of truck drivers. My grandpa had been a truck driver, my uncle was a truck driver, and so was my cousin C at the time. And I originally, was thinking that everything was going to be fine. We were going to get there and he was going to be getting out of surgery or something, and everything would be fine at the end of the day. But I was shocked and heartbroken and confused when I found out that he would not survive. He had suffered such bad injury that his heart had stopped, which caused him to be brain dead. I was most of all angry at the time. I was angry at the world for continuing to move on and continue to live as if nothing had happened when my entire world was flipped around. And a few months after this, my grandfather on my dad's side also passed away, so due to some health problems, and it was just overwhelming for me to have the Band-Aid ripped off of me, it sort of felt like everything was changing so quickly, and I felt like I didn't know what to do, and I had no control over my own life almost. I was just mad at God. I was mad at the world. I was mad at everyone. And I stopped going to church on Wednesdays because I was just so angry. And I also allowed my grades to drop, which would eventually, bite me in and stopped me from being able to get my honors degree when I graduated from high school. But I spent the next year in kind of this like haze of depression. I don't really remember a ton, honestly, about that time in my life. I just don't remember things. Like, it's all very unclear. And moving into my senior year, looking back, I can realize that my depression had not really gone away, but just kind of manifested into anxiety. But at the time, I didn't realize what was happening, but I think I had anxiety. I'm kind of self-diagnosing here, same with the depression. But like, I remember just sitting in my car before class and being like sick to my stomach, thinking about going into school. And it was just an awful time in my life, honestly. Senior year, this is the time when I finally started to gain a little bit of closure over everything that had happened. Obviously, I still have a hard time with it, even to this very day. The wound still isn't fully healed, and I don't know that it ever will be. But I took a college writing class, and one of the first papers that I wrote was where I wrote about C's death and talking about everything that had happened. And it was really helpful for me to just write it all out and get it out there and to say out loud what I had been through and to say this was messed up, and to just put that out there and to have people listen was really important. And after that, I began to throw myself into my studies. I was taking CCP classes, which are college classes that count towards high school credit and college credit at the same time. And I had super long hair, like way too long, like down to my butt, long hair. And honestly, looking back at the pictures, I am like, girl, you need to cut your hair. I was mostly on doing quote unquote senior stuff. I was always up to something, and I always had things to get done, whatever. And I went on my senior class trip in this time with all of my friends, except for my friend R. She was not able to go, but it was a really good time to bond with my friends, and I spent any spare time I had playing The Sims during this time in my life, and pretty much any time after. I was always playing Sims because it was a distraction. I was heartbroken when during my last week on the swim team, my coach couldn't be there when I was being recognized as a senior, and it was just really like hard for me to not have her be there for me in that final moment where I was so like had looked forward to that time so much. But I was able to press forward, and I stayed determined, and I was able to actually drop time on my events where I had been kind of slacking for a while because of, my mental health and things were not the best. And it was just really wonderful because all my swim friends were there and they cheered me on, and they were there for my senior recognition when my coach couldn't be. They were all there to cheer me on, and it really meant a ton to me. So a few weeks after my senior recognition, I competed with my choir at state choir competition, and we performed the song Lunar Lullaby, which is a song all about a mother's love for her child, or that's how I've interpreted it anyway, and the name of the song and the author is on, or the composer or whatever, is on the screen. And this song meant a ton to me, especially after I made a lot of connections to it because of my cousin's death which had been very recent at the time. I also connected it to my coach and what happened to her, and connecting it even with self-love. And so it was just a really important song to me, and I honestly could barely get through it without crying. And when the odds were really, really against us for reasons I can't get into because it would take too long to explain, when the odds were totally against us, we received the highest rank possible. honor performance. And I was so happy and so proud of my whole choir and my choir family, and it was just such a special moment. And I'm so thankful for people like Coach Jay and my music teacher, Mrs. D, for always pushing me to do my best. And it was such an important and special moment. Both of those days were so important to me and my senior year. And then I graduated a few months later, and graduation was filled with happy tears, and it was a good day. I spent it with my best friends in the world, and it was just a wonderful day. And I applied to community college as a psychology major. At community college, I, of course, was a psychology major, but I eventually switched to undecided as my major and eventually switched to an Associate of Arts as my final major. And on April 2nd of 2019, I began my YouTube channel. So this is where you guys start witnessing the chaos of my life. Unfortunately, around the same time as this, my dog Buddy actually, made his way to doggy heaven. He had, we believe he had some form of cancer, but we don't really know. So, in the spring semester of 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic began, and it just came out of nowhere for me. It just came out of nowhere for me, and I, for a long time, have felt in shock about everything that has gone on since then. And school was swiftly moved to online, and honestly, nothing that's happened to me has felt really real since then, honestly. But in the summer semester of 2020, I actually graduated from my community college with an Associate of Arts degree, and then I transferred to a 4-year school a couple weeks later, and I attended one semester there before deciding that I wanted to enter the workforce, and that actually brings us pretty close to today. It has been, honestly, 2020 in general has been such a pivotal year in my life, and I think a very pivotal year for the world and the way that we have thought about things and what we value most. And I think that I hope that we continue to look at 2020 as a year of change and be willing to make changes. But I want to thank you all for always listening to me and listening to me talk about whatever I'm dealing with and allowing me to talk about the hard stuff and act like no one's listening, even though people are. Some people are listening and they hear what I have to say. It's honestly crazy. I cannot wait to see what 2021 is going to bring. Hopefully it's better than 2020. I think that's a pretty low bar. Knock on wood. You have no idea what this has all meant to me, posting on YouTube we're getting close to 2 years now, honestly, and yeah, so this is my life so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed this story time, I guess. I don't know, this draw my life video. So yeah, thanks for watching. I will see you guys in my next video. I hope you enjoyed. I know I did. So thanks for watching. Bye guys.